going to jump into the finals, which are going to be Preston versus Leonard. Both of these players are pretty solid. They've had good seasons and a lot of success in the past. Preston had a good run in 2015 at the Houston Regionals, getting top 4. Leonard most recently finished
top 8. Most recent U.S. Nationals in 2016.
And he's cut the Missouri Regionals in 2015 and 16. So pretty excited for this. It's going to be two good players, hopefully for an exciting match. They did play in the last round of Swiss when they were both 4-0, which Leonard did win that set 2-1 in what he said were some really close battles. So I'm really excited to see what we're going to get here.
Yeah, it should be a fun set. Each player knowing the tricks of the other one should basically leave each one of these games basically being a game 3. So gonna see a lot of predictions. I think this game is going to come down to if Preston is going to be able to punish the defensive play style in which we have seen Leonard lean on. So I think if Preston is able to get off a couple big hits on switches, that's going to be very important for him. Otherwise, Leonard just going to be able to dictate the board position like he loves to do. But we are now in team preview. Leonard going to be on the stream DS this round with a team of Tapu, Fini, Porygon 2, Garchomp, Arcanine, Tapu Lele, and Muck. Preston on the right running Tapu Koko, Porygon 2, Arcanine, Tapu Lele, Kartana, and Garchomp. So we see a mirror of 3 of the same Pokemon here, I think this game is going to come down to the supporting cast of those 3 Pokemon. Something we can see potentially be big here for Preston is that Kartana being able to threaten big amount of damage off on a Garchomp, Tapu Lele, and Tapu Fini could be very important for in this game.
Yeah, for sure. I think the combination of Kartana and Tapu Koko are going to be really important for Preston here. And also, just like in the last battle, terrain control is going to be really big. If he wants to be able to Will-O-Wisp Leonard's physical attackers, he needs to make sure Misty Terrain isn't active. We'll see probably some Garchomp mirrors, which will be interesting to see how they play those out. And then again, he'll want the electric terrain up to fully boost the attacks from his Tapu Koko.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if he is indeed able to manage those terrains and let Tapu Koko or Tapu Lele hit to get attacks off at their fullest potential. So jumping in the game here, Patrick there challenging Leonard. Leonard going to go for that Garchomp Porygon 2, which we do know Porygon 2 is running frustration. But we see Garchomp Kartana from Preston. So Porygon 2 actually looks like it's going to get a special attack boost this turn. So that Ice Beam now from it going to be the threat instead of that frustration like he's shown in his other stream games.
Yeah, so that Ice Beam is going to really threaten Garchomp. And because Kartana's got such low special defense, it's also going to do decent damage on the other side of the field as well.
Yeah, it's Kartana threatening good damage off onto both Pokemon with either a Leaf Blade or a Sacred Sword. Be interesting to see what item it is running here, because if it is indeed, well, either item will allow it to take an Ice Beam here. But we're going to see Arcanine coming for Garchomp on Leonard's side. Just going to threaten that Kartana right away.
Yeah, and also it's going to intimidate both of these physical attackers, which is going to make it tough for Preston to get a KO on Porygon, even if he doubles into it here. And with the Z ground coming out, it does look like that was his plan. We'll have to see if the combination of attacks is enough to take out this Porygon too.
Yeah, we see Garchomp unleashing its full force Z move, that Tectonic Rage. Which Pokemon is it going to target here? Targeting that Porygon 2. So was going for the double target, but barring a critical hit, Porygon 2 will be able to take this attack, which it does with 50 HP, instead of the Trick Room. So very good play there from Leonard.
Yeah, so Porygon survives that attack, quite handily. You know, that combination of attacks, and now it's got Trick Room up. It's going to be free to recover off that damage. And Arcanine here threatens Garchomp with a Will-O-Wisp potentially, or threatens Kartana with a Fire type attack.
We see Preston going to switch that Garchomp out for his own Arcanine, actually. So just bring that Arcanine in, get off and Intimidate, but more importantly, just to take that Ice Beam from Porygon 2 and potentially start throwing some Snarls around. Actually, a double switch once again from Preston. So this time we actually get Tapu Lele coming in. Tapu Lele getting that Psychic terrain up thanks to Psychic Surge. It will not take a lot of damage from this Flamethrower. Porygon 2 does go for the recover, so good read by Leonard not to go for that Ice Beam. And we see a Flamethrower from Arcanine just wanting to remove that Kartana from the field. Not going to do a whole lot of damage to Tapu Lele.
Yeah, it does a little under 25%, but Tapu Lele is quite comfortable taking those attacks. And so this double switch is really good. Normally, when you're forced to double switch, you lose a lot of momentum. All that really happened here is just that Porygon got to recover. So we're probably going to see Porygon sticking around the entire game like it has been in several other matches that Leonard's been in. But Preston does manage to get himself in a better position where he's not got two things that are immensely threatened by Arcanine staring down the field when it outspeeds.
Interesting to see what this Tapu Lele goes for. We do see the Muck switch in for Arcanine, so very afraid of that Psychic attack. Porygon 2 going for the Ice Beam on the Tapu Lele. And do some good damage still, thanks to that +1. But we see Psychic into the Muck. Very good switch in by Leonard, basically getting in his Muck for free.
Yeah, that is a really good switch. Muck takes a special attack drop, which it does not care about.
Yeah. However, Leonard, as we've seen, does not have Tapu Fini. So Arcanine is free to Will-O-Wisp that Muck right now. So it'll be interesting to see if he does indeed go for that and just potentially try to preserve his Tapu Lele for later turns. However,
yeah, absolutely.
But that Porygon 2 is threatening both switches with an Ice Beam, and instead we're going to get Tapu Lele protecting here. Very afraid of Muck going for Poison Jab. Muck reads into that, goes for a knockoff, getting a critical hit onto Arcanine, knocking off its Citrus Berry, and Porygon 2 is just going to recover back up to full HP.
Yeah, so there's a good read by Leonard. He recognizes that Tapu Lele is immensely threatened by the Muck and decides that, you know what, Tapu Lele can't really do much to Muck anyways. I don't need to target it. And since it protected, he just gets essentially free damage on Arcanine there. It does come at the cost of a burn, but he maintains his board position and even burned that Poison Jab into Tapu Lele is still going to do a ton to it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that will pick up the KO, given that Muck is burned. It just really depends all on how each Pokemon is trained. Arcanine here is actually going to switch out, so not going to want to throw around any Snarls or such, but just Preston wants to get that Garchomp out onto the field to start threatening damage off onto that Muck. Poison Jab not going to KO the Tapu Lele. Thanks to that burn, we see Ice Beam double targeting that Tapu Lele. So maybe just going for the KO and potentially just trying to catch a Garchomp switch in if it was a switch in on the Lele slot. However, Trick Room runs up and Garchomp here is in a very good position.
Yeah, so Garchomp's in a good spot. However,
it has burned its Z Crystal, so it's not going to be able to fire off that Tectonic Rage onto either one of its Pokemon.
And there's not a lot stopping Porygon from just setting Trick Room again and forcing Preston back on the defensive while Leonard takes advantage of his speed advantage.
Play we could potentially see here. We're more than likely going to see just a simple Protect Trick Room from Leonard being the safest play, but we could see maybe a Curse come out from that Muck, just trying to set itself up to take even more advantage of that Trick Room if he does choose to go for it. Arcanine is actually going to be the one protecting this turn. So probably more than likely signifying an Earthquake coming out from Garchomp. Earthquake will hit this Muck for a lot of damage. May or may not be able to pick up the KO. It is not.
It's not quite enough. And so now Muck's going to eat that Iapa berry. One of them.
Going to eat its Iapa berry.
Iapa berry. Get right back up.
Yeah,
and Trick Room's going to go up again.
So Muck and Porygon now back in control of the speed here. And Psychic Terrain is going to dissipate. Not really that important because none of the Pokemon on the field are going to be using any priority attacks. However, Garchomp is now is being heavily threatened by this Porygon 2's Ice Beam. So we know that the Kartana is in the back. However, Kartana really does not want to take an Ice Beam itself. So more than likely just going to see this Garchomp protect as it does. And interesting to see what Porygon goes for. Muck, though, Poison Jab into Arcanine. Be interesting to see if it doubled into that with a Frustration critical hit from Poison Jab and a Poison. So Arcanine going to go down here in a couple turns thanks to that. But Arcanine go for the Snarl. Muck dodges. Unimportantly, Porygon 2 going to get his special attack lowered. But because of poison damage, Arcanine's barely going to be able to hang on.
Yeah, so that's a really unfortunate turn there for Preston. I mean, he's already got a lot going against him. He's got these two slower Pokemon in Trick Room. Porygon 2 now is at -2 special attack, I believe. So, or rather -1. Because it got a boost and then a drop. So its Ice Beam probably won't be enough to KO Garchomp.
Be interesting to see if it could pick up a potential critical hit here. It does not. And there's no freeze. Arcanine firing off another Snarl. Going to bring this Porygon 2 down to -2 special attack.
Yeah, so that Snarl is going to be important. It's going to make...
deciding to KO his own Arcanine here, knowing it's just going to go down at the end of the turn. Decides that it's willing to KO that Arcanine just the off chance in which Muck did not protect and would be able to catch that with an Earthquake. But this will give Kartana a free switch in here. However, Kartana does not appreciate Ice Beams, but with that -2 special attack for Porygon, might be able to might be able to take 2 of those Ice Beams.
Yeah, so Kartana's in a position here where it really wants to get a KO. That way it can get a Beast Boost to offset if Arcanine comes in. It's really going to be an uphill battle, but I think it's a doable matchup right now.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised here, though, if Porygon 2 just goes for that recover to make sure Kartana cannot pick up the knockout on it with a Sacred Sword. Or could just target down this Garchomp with an Ice Beam, pick up the KO, and force a 4v1 against this Kartana. We see Porygon 2 going to switch out, more than likely into that Arcanine, which is what comes in. So Arcanine going to throw this Intimidate off onto Garchomp and Kartana, bringing both of these Pokemon down to -1 attack. Going to be very important. We see Muck go for a knockoff, going to get this Kartana's item reveal, and it is an Assault Vest, actually. We see Fire Fang from Garchomp onto Muck, barely doing any damage. So Fire Fang there, more than likely signifying that there is no Dragon Claw, but because of that Intimidate drop, Muck is able to hang on and lives with 1 hit point thanks to the lowered burn damage this generation.
Yeah, so that Muck has been really non-threatening, because it's been, as far as damage output, it's been burned, it's been intimidated, it's not doing a whole lot. But the knockoff, revealing items, just doing some chip damage there, it's really been kind of a thorn in Preston's side.
Yeah, we do see another knockoff there. Did not see who it targeted, unfortunately, because of the lag from the stream. But we saw Flamethrower KO the Kartana, and we see an Earthquake come out from Garchomp. So knowing that the Kartana would go down to a Flamethrower, just picking up some good chip damage off onto Arcanine, and revealing that it does indeed 2-hit KO even while intimidated. So it could be some good information to bring into Game 2.
Yeah, so that's definitely an important calc to remember, that you can get that 2-hit KO still.
And Porygon 2 coming in, getting a special attack boost, can just be able to threaten this Garchomp with Ice Beam. Arcanine goes for the Protect. Preston really needs an Earthquake critical hit right now if he wants to win this game. Will he pick it up on the Porygon? And it does not pick up the critical hit, doing barely any damage to that Porygon. And it's just going to choose to set up the Trick Room. And that all but wraps up this game 1 for Leonard.
Yeah, so that's a really well-managed game by Leonard. I think he's set Trick Room 3 times now, but he's always made sure to be in a position where once it runs out, he's in a position where he can set it up relatively safely. So he's been able to just push that lead throughout the entire game by maintaining the pressure on his opponent there.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what Preston decides to go for in adjustment-wise game 2. But I think he definitely needs to have something to deal with this Trick Room because his team is very fast. So something we could see his own Porygon 2 as a way of reversing Leonard's Trick Room, allowing his team to obtain its speed advantage that it has over Leonard's. So could be an interesting idea if he really wants to prevent that Trick Room from ever being up.
Yeah, he can't really threaten the Porygon with a double target for a KO because of that Intimidate potential from Arcanine. So bringing his own Trick Room, reversing Trick Room that way is an option. He doesn't really even have the slow Pokemon that he could bring that would be able to function in Trick Room either. So that's just going to be a tough matchup for him, I think.
Yeah. Back in team preview here, these teams once again, Leonard Craft III running Tapu Fini, Garchomp, Arcanine, Muck, Tapu Lele, and Porygon 2. Preston, of course, running that Arcanine, Kartana, Tapu Lele, Tapu Koko, Porygon 2, and Garchomp. So yeah, nothing really on Preston's team likes that Trick Room other than his Porygon 2. So we'll have to see if that Porygon will make an appearance here to try and... I really won't be able to abuse Leonard's Trick Room, but it, like we said, can reverse that, giving and allow his Pokemon to abuse the non-Trick Room. So, but if you're Leonard there, you have to be very confident heading into this game too, seeing he was just in complete control of that of the first game.
So yeah, if I'm Leonard now, I'm feeling really good going into this next game because it really feels like a similar game plan. There's not a lot that Preston can really do against you as long as you don't have any crits rolling against you. There's no reason. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That is very true. And we're going to jump right into this game, too. Each Preston and Leonard with their mirror battle poses there. And we are going to have Preston, of course, issuing that challenge against Leonard. Going to see if his leads were any adaptation to stop this Trick Room from Leonard. And we see Garchomp Porygon 2 again from Leonard. And we see Tapu Lele and Arcanine this time from Preston. So no Garchomp this time from Preston. Keeping that in the back this game more than likely, as it is basically his only way of dealing with that Muck. Porygon 2 gets an attack boost, so bringing that back up to neutral. And Garchomp here is in a decent position, being able to fire off that Tectonic Rage into either of these Pokemon. Will KO the Arcanine, however, I do not believe it can KO the Tapu Lele given that Intimidate drop.
Yeah, so not surprised to see this Arcanine switch out, and we do see that Porygon 2, so maybe he's Preston thinking if I get Porygon 2 in and I can at least reset the Trick Room after he sets it, I'll be in good shape.
Yeah, we see Porygon 2 on Leonard's side decided it wants to switch out as well. Getting that Arcanine in, throwing that Intimidate off onto these Pokemon. However, they're both special attackers, so not really affected whatsoever. Garchomp going to go for Protect. Interesting to see what Tapu Lele goes for. And it is that Moonblast into Garchomp. So trying to catch that Garchomp, going for a Tectonic Rage into the Porygon and picking up what would have been a free knockout had it gone for that attack. So Arcanine now on the field is in a very good position to start throwing off Snarls and lowering this damage output from Tapu Lele. And because that Garchomp protected, if it really wanted to, it could go for a Tectonic Rage into Tapu Lele coupled with a flamethrower, but we are just going to see Garchomp switch out into Porygon 2 once again. So Porygon more than likely going to get an attack boost here. It does get that attack boost. So Porygon 2, its frustration is going to be boosted. And Tapu Lele, as we have seen from a few other games, Tapu will not appreciate that frustration whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. So Porygon fires off a Thunderbolt into Arcanine. After that Snarl, it's not doing hardly any damage. And again, we're in a similar position where Leonard is, he's not threatening a ton of damage output right now, but he's really controlling the game with Arcanine's Snarls and everything else.
Yeah, Leonard, like I said, not putting off a lot of damage output, but his side of the field is restricting the damage output from Preston. So we see Arcanine switch in for Preston, just lowering that Porygon 2's attack stat. So frustration will not be hitting his Tapu Lele as hard as it would have been. Snarl again from Arcanine, lowering the special attack of these Pokemon. Not very important on Arcanine, given that it is physical, but Tapu Lele does not really appreciate that. And Psychic will not be hitting as hard. But we see it do decent amount of damage, still bringing it down below 50%, and there is the frustration from Porygon. Still doing some solid chip damage to that Tapu Lele. So, Porygon 2 here. We could actually see a Will-O-Wisp from Preston's Arcanine to lower that frustration output. But we're going to see Tapu Lele protect here. We're going to see what... Yeah, we do see Preston's Arcanine going for the Will-O-Wisp on the Porygon 2. Going to weaken the damage of that frustration and provide some important chip damage for over the next couple of turns. Snarl from Arcanine trying to just lower that Tapu Lele's special attack again. What are we going to get from Porygon? We get the Trick Room.
Yeah, so that's actually a really important protect on Preston's part, because his Tapu Lele is slower than Leonard's Arcanine, so that ensures he doesn't get snarled that turn, and now he'll be faster than the Arcanine to fire off an attack into that slot. Although he does need to be careful, because there is always the potential Muck switch in, like he got caught with last game.
Yeah, we saw that Muck switch in for that Arcanine under Trick Room when Tapu Lele was out on the field for Preston, so would not be surprised to see it switch in once again. We're actually going to see Tapu Lele switch out for the Porygon 2, so maybe trying to use his own Porygon to potentially abuse this Trick Room from Leonard. Arcanine will switch out. In comes that Muck. So, Muck, very happy to see this Trick Room. However, is not happy that Tapu Lele switched out, but we've seen Ice Beam onto Arcanine, actually. And he gets the freeze. However, if he does go for Flare Blitz, it will unthaw, but it actually unthaws anyway and goes for a Snarl on the Porygon. So Porygon 2 now at -2 attack, -2 attack and -1 special attack.
Yeah, so I think that's a good switch on Preston's end. Seeing that Muck switch last game, deciding, hey, if I have a dead turn with Tapu Lele, that's going to be really bad. So let's go ahead and get Porygon 2 in here, and maybe I can reset Trick Room or, do something to try and swing this game back in my favor.
Yeah, be very interested to see what Porygon 2 decides to go for here. But that Arcanine can just start firing off some Flare Blitzes if it wants to, or it can just burn this Muck like it did last game, and really limit its damage output. We see another knockoff onto the Arcanine doing a lot of damage, bringing it down to around 25%. But because of that knockoff, knocking off the Citrus Berry, we see a Thunderbolt from Porygon 2 doing really no damage to that Muck. And we see Will-O-Wisp from Arcanine does connect onto it. So, going to weaken that Muck's damage output. It is now at -2 attack as well.
Yeah, so that's going to be an important intimidate an important burn for the rest of the game. But Muck can still exert some pressure just because of the utility of knockoff. Like, removing Porygon's Eviolite really hurts its bulk a lot, even though it doesn't do a ton of damage.
Yeah, we're going to see Arcanine switch out here for Tapu Lele, getting that Psychic Terrain back on the field. We see Muck is just going to be content with knocking off Porygon's Eviolite. We've seen Ice Beam from Porygon 2 onto Preston's Porygon, not picking up the freeze this time, but there is that reversal of Trick Room. So Tapu Lele is now the fastest Pokemon on the field. We haven't seen an item from it yet, so interested to see. I believe, have we seen Garchomp use that Ground DMZ? I don't believe
Garchomp has not used Ground DMZ yet this game.
Yeah, but we could potentially see a Psychic Z move from Tapu Lele if it's running it, because I do not believe we have seen an item reveal from that yet. So if he is packing that, it could be very important to KO this Porygon 2, and Tapu Lele is going for that Shattered Psyche. Going to be hitting the Porygon. Will this be enough to knock it out? So that Shattered Psyche gonna start bouncing Porygon 2 around in those Psychic mirrors, blowing Porygon 2 all the way back. Is it gonna knock you out? It does get
and it does get enough. That's a huge plus there.
Preston Ice Beam onto Muck. Going to bring it down into range for the Iapapa Berry to proc, though. So Muck gonna end this turn with more health than what it had. Muck gonna go for Poison Jab onto the Tapu Lele. Not gonna KO thanks to the burn, but doing still really good damage onto that Guardian.
Yeah, so that Tapu Lele took a ton of damage, but this is overall a really good turn for Preston. He got that Porygon off of the field, made sure Trick Room's not up, and he got rid of the Iappa Berry on Muck, so now all he has to do is deal enough damage to the thing to get it KO'd. His Porygon 2 here is threatening Garchomp with an Ice Beam, though Garchomp can easily pick up the KO on Tapu Lele.
Garchomp could have even gone for that Tectonic Rage onto Porygon 2. More than likely would have picked up the knockout there because Porygon lost its Eviolite item. We see Arcanine switch in for Porygon, and we do see the Z Crystal come out for Leonard. More than likely targeting that Porygon slot because Tapu Lele could have easily just been knocked out by a Poison Jab. So we'll have to see who this Tectonic Rage is going to target. And it is going to target the Arcanine. So Preston just willing to sack off that Arcanine for an Intimidate onto these two Pokemon. Arcanine going to go down, but this opens up the opportunity for Tapu Lele to use Moonblast onto the Garchomp or the Muck, depending on who he decides to target. It is Garchomp. Is this going to knock out? It does knock out. So another very big turn for Preston. However, Muck will just knock out the Tapu Lele in return.
So now we're down to a 2v2 situation where this Muck has been intimidated and burned, so its attack is going to be considerably lower, and Preston's Porygon has lost its Eviolite, so a lot of its bulk that it normally is very well known for is just not going to be there.
Yeah, we see Arcanine come out for Leonard, and what are we going to get in the back? It is Garchomp for Preston. So Garchomp here is in a very good position to start firing off Earthquakes. As we saw in Game 1, Earthquake is going to be enough to pick up the knockout, given his ability to hit KO this Arcanine at -1 attack. In Porygon 2, I did not see the download boost. I believe it was more than likely just an attack boost. And we actually see Leonard going to forfeit this game, knowing that Garchomp is going to just win this game for Preston. Leonard not going to waste his time, just wants to get right into this Game 3.
Yeah, so well done by Preston adjusting that time. I think having that option to reset Trick Room really helped him out. He had to sacrifice the offensive presence, but it was definitely worth it to not be absolutely swept while Trick Room was active.
Yeah, and it was. We also got to see the power of running 2 Z Crystals on your team there. Because in Game 1, we saw the threat of the ground Z Crystal from Garchomp, but in Game 2, Tapu Lele revealed that it itself had a Z Crystal and was able to pick off that Porygon 2 with the Shattered Psyche before it could reset the Trick Room. And that
play absolutely
wing in that game for Preston.
And having that option was also really important since the damage couldn't be reduced by Leonard's Intimidate. So
Yeah. So be interesting to see which Z Crystal holder Leonard is going to try and play around more, knowing that it is indeed that both of them threaten big damage off onto whatever Leonard has out on the field. So it's basically going to be one of those pick your poison situations, but there can be things that he can do. Muck, of course, is going. I feel like he's going to have to preserve this Muck a little bit better this game. We saw Muck get probably down to around -4 attack with all the burn and all the intimidates, and we saw Muck is going to be really good at countering that Tapu Lele, which is really the biggest threat to his own Porygon too. So if he's just able to preserve this Muck for that Tapu Lele, then Porygon and Muck should be able to. We could see a similar result to Game 1 in which they just abused that Trick Room.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. We haven't seen Leonard bring his Tapu Lele, and we haven't seen Preston bring their Tapu Koko. Do you think we're likely to see either one of those in this last game of the set?
We know that Leonard's Tapu Lele is Choice Scarf, so that could be an interesting option for the Garchomp on Preston's team. Will not appreciate that Moonblast. We'll see Leonard going for the same leads in Game 1 with that Garchomp Porygon 2, but we see Tapu Koko this game for Preston, so maybe signifying that there is no Tapu Lele this game. Arcanine going to get an Intimidate onto that Garchomp. And a potential play we could see here, well, we see Porygon get that attack boost, so back to neutral attack. Potential play we could see here from Preston is Volt Switch out into that Porygon's 2 slot. And if it indeed is going to try and Trick Room, bring out his own Porygon and threaten good damage off onto that Garchomp with Ice Beam, or just reset it like he has in the last game.
Yeah, so his Arcanine is definitely threatened by the Tectonic Rage potential, and neither one of these Pokemon really wants to take an Earthquake anyways.
Yeah.
So,
Arcanine
not surprised.
Arcanine is very afraid of that C move from Garchomp. Going to protect itself, and Tapu Koko does go for that Volt Switch. Going to go right back to Preston. Going to be bringing out his own Porygon 2. Porygon 2 will not take a lot of damage from this Tectonic Rage, if that is what Garchomp goes for. Attack boost on Porygon, as we have seen, is not really going to be all that useful for it. And there is the Tectonic Rage coming out from Garchomp, that full force Z move. Not going to be doing a lot of damage to either of these Pokemon, so just be interesting to see who it targets down. It is at Arcanine, but because of the Protect, Arcanine will not be KO'd this turn and can start whoop. Oh, but we see a critical hit through the Protect, bringing Arcanine down to 75%, 25% of its health, but the Citrus Berry brings it back to around full, and the Trick Room does go up. Huge critical hit there for Leonard.
Oh, that did so much damage there. And Leonard goes ahead and sets up Trick Room, which means Arcanine is actually free to burn this Garchomp before taking another Earthquake, which is going to be really important, meaning it could potentially survive another turn.
Yeah, we do see actually Porygon 2 switch out for Leonard. Going to get that Muck in here. Start threatening both Pokemon with the knockoff or Poison Jab. Garchomp itself is going to switch. And we get Tapu Fini, actually, from Leonard. So a Pokemon we did not see in the first couple of games, but that is going to be heavily threatened by the Tapu Koko in the back. Porygon 2 does go for Ice Beam, trying to catch that Garchomp, but will not do really any damage whatsoever to Tapu Fini. We see Arcanine does go for Will-O-Wisp into that Muck slot, but is not going to be burned thanks to that Misty Terrain.
Yeah, so that's a really good play by Leonard. He hasn't brought Tapu Fini to this matchup yet. So bringing it now, Preston probably thinks he's safe to fire off these Will-O-Wisps, and that was a great way for him to protect his Pokemon. And since Tapu Fini resists that Ice Beam and healed almost all of the damage it took, thanks to his leftovers, it's a really good way for Leonard to take advantage of that double switch and really swing momentum back in his favor again.
Yeah, and as we have seen in prior games with Leonard on stream, Tapu Fini is has that swagger, and he has not been afraid to swagger his own Muck under Trick Room. So if that is the case, Muck is going to start hitting like an absolute truck with that swagger boost. But we're actually going to see Tapu Fini switch out for Porygon too. So maybe anticipating that there's going to be a Trick Room reset from Preston and wants to set it up next turn immediately. Muck, though, going to go for the Poison Jab on the Porygon instead of the knockoff. Interesting play there. If we see Thunderbolt from Porygon not resetting that Trick Room, we see Snarl from Arcanine. So really just trying to get after this Tapu Fini. But unfortunately, it did switch out. Porygon 2, though, is at -1 special attack. But still in a very good position here for Leonard. Being able to Muck still having Trick Room is a big bonus for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also important to note the Poison Jab, potentially fishing for a Tapu Koko switch in there.
Yeah. Poison Jab more than likely was fishing for that Tapu Koko because they would have easily just picked up the knockout. Arcanine's going to protect itself here. Muck does now go for knockoff on the Porygon 2. Going to knock off the Eviolite. Porygon 2 frustration into Preston's, and it does so much damage given that it no longer had that Eviolite. So Porygon 2 is brought down to the red.
That is a really good turn there for Leonard, reading that, maybe not even reading that protect on Arcanine, but just realizing that, I can deal a lot of damage to this Porygon here. It's the bigger threat to me right now since Arcanine can't burn the Muck anyways. So choosing to target down that Porygon, getting a lot of damage for free onto it.
Yeah, interesting to see what this Arcanine could potentially go for. We actually see Porygon 2 switch out for Tapu Koko. So maybe just relying on a Flare Blitz critical hit onto this Porygon so Trick Room cannot get reset. However, Porygon 2 is actually going to switch out itself, and Tapu Fini comes in. So we're going to shut off that electric terrain, actually. Be interesting to see if Arcanine went for that Will-O-Wisp onto Muck, trying to burn it with the electric surge being up. But yes, we do see that Will-O-Wisp. And Muck going to get off a Poison Jab into Arcanine. And critical hit knockout. Arcanine not having a good time in this game with those critical hits.
Yeah, so that's another huge knockout there. Now Leonard doesn't have to worry so much about maintaining terrain control because he's picked up the knockout against the status inducer. However, with his Garchomp coming out, Tapu Koko and Garchomp are going to be faster than both of these Pokemon on the field and can threaten huge damage to either of them.
Yeah, be interesting to see if Tapu Koko wants to try and preserve its electric terrain by using a Volt Switch here. And that way, if Leonard tries to make any switch outs, he can... Well, we know Porygon 2 can come in the back and just bring that Porygon 2 and try and maybe... No, we actually see Thunderbolt from Tapu Koko on to Tapu Fini. Not going to do about half health, and we see Tectonic Rage from Garchomp. This will pick up the KO on either Pokemon. So, got to see who it's decided to knock out this turn with that Tectonic Rage. And it is going to be that Muck. So Muck will go down to this Tectonic Rage from Garchomp. So that offensive Trick Room threat is now gone from Leonard's side of the field. However, Tapu Fini could take advantage of that. And yes, it does go for a Moonblast into Garchomp, which will not be enough to pick up the knockout, but does good damage to it. And of course, Tapu Fini healing up with the leftovers. Be interesting to see if this is a damage roll on Thunderbolt to pick up the KO onto that slot.
Yeah, so I think Preston came out ahead that turn. Garchomp's going to be threatened by the
this Moonblast and the now boosted Ice Beam by Porygon 2. So I'm fully expecting this Tapu Koko to want to Volt Switch out into that Porygon, just so he can reset the Trick Room if it is going to go up here on Leonard's side. Garchomp, though, we actually see Tapu Fini go for Protect, signifying there's no Protect from the Garchomp. And we do see Volt Switch from Tapu Koko onto the Porygon. safe play there, making sure that it got the Volt Switch off for sure, in case Tapu Fini protected like it did. So Porygon 2 on Preston's side, gonna hit the field now. Very low health though, so may not be able to reset the Trick Room actually. We see the attack boost. Garchomp Poison Jab into the Tapu Fini protect, and Trick Room is going right back up for Leonard.
Yeah, so I think that's the right play to make. Unfortunately, because the HP on this Porygon is so low, it's going to make it tough to deal enough damage or to be able to reset Trick Room. So I think his better option is to try and go on the offensive with Porygon, see if you can't pick up the KO on Tapu Fini, and then stall out the rest of Trick Room via Protects and everything else.
Yeah. Porygon 2 here on Leonard's side is just going to be able to knock out Preston's Porygon 2 here with its boosted Ice Beam or Frustration because Porygon has lost its Eviolite item. And we do see an Ice Beam from Porygon targeting down Preston. Should pick up the knockout here, and it does. And Trick Room is now here to stay for Leonard. Moonblast into that Garchomp. It's going to be very tough for Preston to pull this back unless he's able to get off a lot of Protects.
Yeah, so this next Moonblast from Tapu Fini threatens the KO on Garchomp or an Ice Beam from the Porygon 2. Now, the Tapu Koko is out in terrain. It could potentially have a Focus Sash still, so it may need to be double targeted, which could give a chance for Preston.
We see Garchomp go for the double protect, and it fails. Porygon 2 going to Ice Beam that slot and pick up the KO, leaving Tapu Koko in a 1v3 here. And we see Tapu Fini go for the Heal Pulse into Porygon, so bringing that up to full HP, or around full HP. Tapu Koko goes for the Thunderbolt on the Porygon, but wouldn't have even KO'd anyway. But that Heal Pulse is making sure that it's going to have to use Thunderbolt into that slot several more times.
Yeah, so good safe play by Leonard there. You know, if the Garchomp doesn't get the Protect, it gets KO'd. If he doesn't go for Protect, he gets KO'd. And if he does get the Protect there, then he still gets his Porygon 2 back up to full or almost full HP. So he didn't really risk a lot there by going for that Heal Pulse.
Yeah, we see another Heal Pulse from Tapu Fini. Going to bring Porygon 2 back up to full this time. Reading into that Tapu Koko going for Protect, but it was just a safe play anyway. Tapu Koko needs one more Protect to stall out this Trick Room. Be interesting to see what Leonard goes for. Could just see a double attack into it, or we do see attack. No Protect actually from Preston, so maybe trying to catch Tapu Fini going for that Heal Pulse here. We see Swagger on the Tapu Koko. So Tapu Koko will have its attack very sharply and become confused. So adding more to that struggle of trying to attack here, gets that Thunderbolt off. It should KO the Tapu Fini, which it does. So an important knockout there, and Trick Room will run up. However, Leonard still has one more Pokemon here in the back to try and wrap up this game, and it is that Garchomp. So going to need a Dazzling Gleam critical hit to KO Garchomp, and because it does not hold a boosting item, that might not even KO itself.
Yeah, so the only chance here is going to be the Dazzling Gleam critical hit. Of course, Garchomp protects.
Tapu Koko going for the Dazzling Gleam. Garchomp protecting itself. And Porygon 2 is going to be able to take this very easily and set up the room, thus basically ending the game.
Yeah, so setting that Trick Room up one last time for this set really seals it up. So now Porygon is free to attack, and Garchomp can attack it as well with that Poison Jab, or maybe just go for an Earthquake.
Porygon 2 going for Frustration, just signifying that it is tired of battling today in this tournament. Garchomp going to pick up the KO. Critical hit on the Tapu Koko with the Poison Jab. And Leonard Craft III is your new Midseason Showdown champion at Game Cafe.
Yeah, so
well played set by Leonard there.
Well played by Leonard. I love watching him, make sure he maintains his board position throughout the entire match, doesn't lose his head after dropping a game, and comes back and seals it up in a pretty decisive victory.
Yeah, Leonard was in control that entire game, always making the safe switch, safe protect, and just even with that, he read Preston so well, punishing Preston for passive play by using game 3 it showed with that heel pulse on Tapu Fini, just punishing Preston for trying to go for those endless protects to stall out that trick room. So, congrats to Leonard. It's a nice 50 CP that he has now. That's very important towards that 500-point bar for Worlds. I don't know how much CP he's at right now, but of course this is going to help a lot, and also can serve as a confidence booster for the rest of his season.
All right, and so with the end of that match, I'm going to go ahead and hang it up. Thanks so much for watching. I always enjoy getting the chance to commentate on these things, and I'm really glad I got to see some good Pokemon today.
Yeah, I'm going to sign off as well. I thank you guys for putting up with my more than likely lackluster commentary, but I appreciate people at Game Cafe for having me out here. Hope you all enjoyed the stream, and we'll catch you later.